I made no secret of the fact that I pretty much hated season 1 and 2 of Bad Batch.
No, you did not.
I was very mean to it. I still watched it because it's Star Wars and I'm starved for content for some reason. This season, I think, was actually good.
Yeah.
What did you feel about the first 2 seasons? Were you on board?
Well, I mean, it was pitched as like a Clone Wars, like 1.5, I suppose, or maybe 2.0. I guess it took a bit to like find it on its feet.
They used 3 episodes of the final Clone Wars season to shoehorn in this. So I'm glad they didn't do that in this finale.
Yeah.
That was the big thing, is like, what are they doing next? Because they're doing Tales of the Empire, but then were they going to shoehorn in, like, what was it? You heard Captain Rex.
I was thinking
Ventress.
Ventress is a big contender, but now after that finale, it's probably going to be Omega.
I don't think they're
something.
doing an Omega one, no.
A ship going off into the distance.
This is like a boy show. You think that... The only reason they could get Omega in for the rest of it was because they had 5 burly guys. And all the kids could be like, yeah, I'd buy their action figures.
Yeah.
Like, my nephew has no idea who the fuck Omega is. Which is not even on the table.
No, it's not.
Like, what was this season about? This season was, let's save Omega yet again.
Let's save Omega twice. Let's save the clones. Let's break out of prison.
This season, it's because she has midichlorians. The same reason.
An M-count transfer.
M-count, because they don't want to use the word midichlorians.
Yeah.
Even though, just say it. Everyone knows what you mean.
Yeah.
Only people watching this show give a damn. You're not going to spoil anything by saying that. But they want him for the same reason they wanted Baby Yoda. They wanted Grogu.
Well, Grogu had a high M count.
Yeah, but that was also because they wanted to do cloning experiments.
Yeah.
So it's literally the exact same thing with the exact same premise, except there's 4 Mandos instead of 1. But it feels like what they're doing is like every subsequent show is literally being made to explain the previous show. Because like we're about to have...
Or the sequel trilogy.
Yes, it's basically saying sorry for the sequel trilogy. Or instead of saying sorry, they're trying to retroactively make it make sense.
Yeah.
They're trying to remove the somehow from somehow Palpatine returned.
Cue the clip.
It's a lot of work. Like, they don't have anything interesting to say in general, or like a good story. They're basically just like, shit, we need to cover this. And now they're doing the same thing with... Because they just did Ahsoka. And we're like, who the fuck is Morgan Elsbeth? Who are these people? And now we're getting Tales of the Empire just to show us that.
What the Bad Batch explain? I mean, we still...
The Bad Batch explained Palpatine.
Explained Palpatine? Yeah,
Wow.
but then all the data got erased, so that's sort of... We're back to square one.
Yeah, you're true. Yeah,
and then we see, was it Wolf, Gregor, and Rex in Rebels? We saw Wolf briefly in Bad Batch, but what happened to that? He didn't defect. He just left.
Away.
Yeah. We still didn't see... Well... We saw Gregor in the previous seasons. Okay, yeah, true. I guess that explains it. But yeah, what happened to Wolf? What's going on? What's going on?
It's like, it's semi because they're only capable of writing old man protects young child stories. But in this, they take... Do you know how by the end of like The Last of Us, Ellie's good at stuff? Like she's like moderately competent and you're like, wow, you've come so far. This episode of Bad Batch took that very far. Like she's now an escape. She's basically every member of the Bad Batch.
I guess isn't that something they teased in the beginning? I suppose
I don't think it was on purpose.
I feel like because she had a buddy, she was buddies with each of the Bad Batch each time, learning like their ins and outs and all that. I guess
learning.
Yeah.
She was there when stuff happened. Doesn't mean she's tech levels now of a hacker. She released the Zillow Beast in like 3 seconds.
I mean, I guess it was like a few buttons and a lever. I guess.
But like, why is it so easy?
Yeah,
you think there'd be like a password entry anyway?
Yeah.
But that's the thing. She's just a very good escape artist. She reprogrammed a droid immediately.
That's true.
I'm not sure if that was actually in a wheelhouse.
Well,
but reprogramming a droid with a stick. Droids should be harder to reprogram. Star Wars needs to work on that. The Empire
not the first
needs
time. The Empire also leaves, like Echo's like arm or like R2D2, when they put into a
just sex ports.
Yeah,
R2 fuck ports.
They leave a lot of those ports around, unencrypted and
incredibly easy to access. Yeah, in general, I guess the Empire needs to work on their shit.
Yeah,
but basically, the whole season, I did like it a lot more. I think maybe it's because why did I like it more?
Well, you enjoyed the first 3 episodes.
It was more serialized and less like, oh, Monster of the Week, whereas the old season 1 and 2 was very much, oh, we're going on a mission. Like, if you read the descriptions of season 1, it's pretty much like, the Batch goes on a mission and gets into trouble. And that trouble was always Omega gets captured.
Yeah.
Like, every single fucking time.
Something like that. Or at least, one of them go through some sort of peril.
Yeah, occasionally she had to rescue them, and it's like, wow.
Or at one point they had to rescue their ship.
But yeah, this season was much more. It was almost one cohesive story with a couple of episodes of like bullshit thrown in because they needed to hit 15 episodes. I'm surprised it is 15 episodes. It's a weird number for them to do.
It
but
is, yeah.
I like it more than if it was short, I guess, because it's like Mandalorian was only 30 minutes and you got like 8 of those. At least this is 25 minutes and you get 16.
And 51 for the last episode, which is good.
Yes, I was so thankful for that. That would have been
so good.
That would have been awful. But yeah, the whole season is this season was escaping, and then she stayed out for a little while, and then they're like, oh, we have to go back, and then she gets captured, then we go back again. But the finale was basically everyone has to come save Omega, but Omega's already saving herself.
Yeah.
It was an interesting prison break, I guess. I don't know whether to review this as a kid's show or not.
It was PG, at least to our standards.
But someone gets shot in the head.
In his arm. It was in a hand. But it was off screen.
They're skirting very close, which I'm glad because I'd rather they keep it dark. In the end, Wrecker buries an assassin's head through a wall, and I'm just like, oh.
It's not the first time someone's done that in Star Wars.
They're skirting the line very close to that, further than PG.
I do like that.
So that's why I'm not sure whether I should be rating this as a kid show. As a kid show, I think I would have loved this as a kid. This season, at least. I think season 1 was very boring. Very much, again, rinse and repeat, someone gets captured.
Because you look at Tails and it's got blood in it. And it's like, because that's an M-rated thing.
That
which
seems
I find
like
interesting.
Maybe they are trying to pitch that. Because they're trying to explain Ahsoka. They're trying to be like,
that's true. Don't
worry, guys. Morgan Elsbeth is the good guy now because that's what we all needed and wanted.
It also explains the other Inquisitors. Sorry, the one from Mandalorian and the one from Tales of the Jedi.
I mean, we always knew they were just Jedi that got captured and turned. That's not a problem, really.
Yeah.
But they have retconned Hathorn looks. They've made him look normal, as in he's just a blue guy now. Because I guess Mads didn't want to sit through makeup. I don't know.
Yeah.
It honestly pissed me off a lot because like the eye ridges make him look not like a human. Like making aliens look like aliens is what makes it good. Like you see
in Legends though, he does look like just a blue person.
But that's probably why they changed him in the I don't know. Legends isn't real anymore. Remember?
Yeah, that's true. But granted, Rebels was very hyper stylized as well. I guess. Yeah, I can give him that.
You look at Count Dooku.
From Clone Wars,
especially. But still, like giving him some distinguishing features, like with the High Inquisitor, having him have an extended forehead makes him look like an alien. Whereas in Obi-Wan, they're just like, oh, we don't want to put you in makeup. Oh, we don't want to do a special effect on your head, so he just looks like a bald guy.
Was Jason Isaacs unavailable or something?
Again,
I reckon he would have been fine.
He could have done great.
Yeah.
Like, it could have been fantastic.
Yeah.
But I don't know why they didn't do it, and it doesn't especially matter, I guess. But still.
I guess what's done is done, I suppose. Yeah.
Good things about it. It does look quite good.
Yes.
I'm glad they're keeping the look for Tales of the Empire because, I mean, it looks good, but it's also semi-annoying because the way they make it look good is everything is at night with a harsh backlight. So the show is so fucking dark. Like y'all probably can't even see most of it on the projector in the background because it's just so dark. But it does look very, very good sometimes. They've like nailed the style finally. You go back and look at Clone Wars, and it does look pretty ass.
It's hard to believe that that's over a decade ago.
And I don't think it looks bad when there's bright lights. Like Omega in the nicely lit vault, like where there's lights everywhere. The show still looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Because people have skin imperfections now. They're obviously very stylized and they look like claymation models almost, I guess.
Oh, you never saw Resistance, did you? I guess I was one of the 10 people that did.
No. I never bothered because, I mean, it was a cartoon.
It was a cartoon, but one of the characters in it was literally a gold stormtrooper. And then you also had Phasma, who was a silver stormtrooper.
Right.
And just having them bling around. In that animation style, I don't know how they'd pull that off. That's just...
Although, like, shiny things look pretty good in this show. I reckon they could do it. They maybe scuff them up a bit. I'm mad that guy wasn't Tech.
I'm happy. I am so happy they just kept him dead. I'm happy that, Rampart didn't get a redemption arc. Like, he just...
Oh, I'm so glad Rampart didn't get a redemption arc. Nala Se took him down, and that was actually a really good moment. That's the thing. I think that's why this season's better. It hits harder. It means more. Whereas the first 2 seasons were very kiddie. Like, it was a kid show pretending to be adult, they're like, look how cool we are. Like,
yeah.
because like it's a very cool premise having Crosshair go against his own teammates, but they never delved into it enough, and he vanished for half the season, and then he'd pop back up, and like it just never felt like it mattered. Whereas this season, when they got back together, I cared a bit more.
Well, I mean, even Crosshair's episode when he was recovering the cargo on that ice planet.
That was just enemy mine. That was just the exact same thing that they did in Rebels with Zeb and...
Oh, and Callus.
Yeah, Zeb and Callus did the exact same thing.
Oh, yeah, true.
That's why that episode annoyed me. Oh. That was a filler episode as far as I'm concerned. It was meant to be... And that was season 2. Again, it's like just stuff I've seen before.
Do you feel any of them were filler? I mean...
yeah, like the 3rd episode where Wrecker and Hunter decided to
go to that facility,
go on a little adventure.
Yeah, that was I thought that was the 2nd episode. Yeah.
Oh, possibly.
Yeah.
And then later on, when they meet up with Fennec Shand, that was a bit of a filler. We have the Ventress cameo. That really is just Ventress rocks up and explains what midichlorians are, because no one ever said midichlorians. Like, if anyone said midichlorians, they would have been like, oh, but they're like M count, so they're like, what's an M count? What could it be?
Yeah.
So like, again, kiddie dumb stuff occasionally. And they're just retelling a lot of The Mandalorian. But I think as far as animated Star Wars goes, this is the best we've had in a while.
Yeah.
Like, apart from like the last 3 episodes of season 7 of Clone Wars, when they actually did the Seeds of Mandalore. That was actually good. Too bad they wasted half of it on the Spice Girls. So where do we go from here? I stand by we're not getting Omega anymore. She'll cameo and other stuff, but I think she's pretty much wrapped up. I'm happy with where she ended up. She survived. They kind of explained that she hid on a planet and then joined the rebellion.
Well,
like,
that's the other thing too. Is she going to be retconned into another character like they did with Rex?
Yeah, I'll check the Reddit. Yeah. Someone's probably rewatching 4, 5, and 6 right now
just looking at every background
finding
detail.
one blonde chick standing next to Rex, and they'll be like, "Ha!"
Yeah, that was.
Omega changed her name because she only has one name. Like,
yeah, and
she's like, "Who are you?" I'm Omega. It's like,
and plus she is still actually no, she wouldn't be a fugitive from the Empire anymore, would she? Because now that all that's
if they heard
destroyed,
the name Omega, they'd probably go after her.
Maybe, yeah.
But she doesn't really look like a clone.
Well, I think
she's not blonde Tamura Morrison. So.
Yeah. Well, they explained that Hemlock kept it secret from Tarkin, so Tarkin doesn't really know much about it.
Tarkin doesn't know about Omega?
No. Tarkin all of the Mount Tantus stuff. Because they explained it because like Tarkin was like, "Why do you need all this money for? What do you need the money for?"
Oh yeah, I do remember the little bureaucracy episode,
yeah,
where they're like, "Nah, Palpatine really wants me to do secret stuff. Don't worry, Tarkin. Don't worry." So okay,
yeah.
So I guess
it sort of wraps it up in a
There's very few because no one alive because they killed off Prince Charming.
Yeah.
What made you come at the end?
The Star Destroyer.
A ship that you've seen before.
We've seen a million times, but just for some reason.
But it was next to a Venator. And you're like,
next to 2 Venators, and it's just like, it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
It was so noisy.
Oh my God.
So loud.
Absolutely so jacked
for that
at
3 seconds. I had to rewind it just to see it again.
God. So good. So good. And of course it was Tarkin's. Yeah. I just want to know like when the Stormtrooper, like the actual like Stormtrooper, like with the armor
they
come
didn't
in.
just have him there.
Yeah.
Because like Tarkin was one of the people that were like, yeah, fuck these guys off. Fuck off the clones.
So now you have the TK armor, but when's the Stormtroopers come in? Is this when we're gonna?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We'll have a whole cartoon about it. Although again, season 2 was mostly about clones getting swapped in for recruits, but then they just stopped doing that. They got distracted, I guess.
That's something they had to explain away through this medium, I suppose.
But again, they didn't. It's like that bit felt half-assed. I think that was what I was really excited for season 2. Like I remember being like, oh shit, they're gonna actually go into like the clones, and like I'd get Battlefront 2. But actually from the clones, because then I'm like, that's actually a cool way to do it. But then they just didn't, and they were just like, yeah, but what if we do the same thing you've seen before? And I'm like, fuck you. I really want them to just stop explaining shows. Like, if you have a show, tell me about the show in that show. Don't create... Because it's not like they're creating lore and backstory. I don't think the writer of Ahsoka went into it thinking, oh, this is Morgan Elsbeth. She's mysterious, and we're going to explain it in another thing. I think they just said, fuck it, here's Morgan Elsbeth. Because like she brought up in Mandalorian, for God's sake. She came in that with Ahsoka, and people were like, oh, some people knew who Ahsoka was. A lot of people still didn't. Like my dad didn't know who the fuck Ahsoka was. He's like, isn't that tight little orange? Oh no. Didn't say that. That was Obi-Wan Kenobi. That was old Ben. My dad didn't know who that was.
Yeah.
And a lot of other people didn't. And then Morgan Elsbeth, they're like, who the fuck's that as well? Okay. And then she rocks up. And then I feel like they're waiting for the outrage and people to be confused. And then they're starting Tales of the Empire. Because Ahsoka was long enough ago, they probably could have made Tales of the Empire in that meantime. It's only 3 short episodes.
Wait, I thought it was 6. Oh, 3 in each arc. Yeah, true. Yeah.
Who's the other one?
It was the Padawan.
Barriss.
Barriss. That's
Barriss.
it.
Barriss.
Yeah.
Again, someone out of nowhere that most people won't care about. It just feels like they're niching. They have a niche of like children's cartoon, and then they're like, "What about this single character from that show? We'll give them a show." And then
you mentioned it a while ago, where you see instead of like each show being its own self-contained thing, it's just a continuation. It's just one long line. I mean, maybe Andor, I guess, is an exception to that.
Well, that's why Marco hasn't watched Bad Batch, because like he didn't watch season 7 of Clone Wars because it was 10 years later, and he's like, eh. And then, so he didn't know who Bad Batch was.
Yeah.
Didn't know who they were, and now we're 3 seasons in.
It also doesn't help that Clone Wars is jumbled up as well in the first couple
so
seasons.
Hard to watch,
you have to.
Disney Plus, please release the chronological cut. But stop making stories to fill in plot holes that you yourself made in your other stories. It's completely unnecessary, and it's getting on my nerves. I'm tired, boss. Let me sleep.
Do you think they wrapped it up, though? What do you think will be the next thing?
I think they wrapped this show up pretty well, all things considered, mainly because they killed everyone. If you are in fact right, and no one knows who Omega is, and they killed everyone who did, and Tarkin was like a money man, which I do love about Tarkin. He's a bureaucrat, and that's my favorite thing about the ISB. Like that's one of the reasons Andor was so good. Show me inside the Empire. We've seen so much shit. Like I would be happy with another Andor show, as in not season 2 of Andor, but like another ISB secrets. Because Andor isn't really that. Andor is rebellion again with a little bit of that. I'd be happy with a full ISB show.
Law and Order ISB.
Exactly. Like give me that shit. That could be fun. Because then like they're obviously Nazis, and like it'd be a little bit like Man in the High Castle if they showed the Nazis being good more. But you could also do Man in the High Castle, but it's the Empire. That would be a fun show. That's the distinction there. It's like one is confusing because they forgot to write about it, and the other is just a cool thing that fans might have latched onto, and then they explain it later.
Well, I mean, that's one thing Star Wars does best, at least in the old EU, is
in the holes.
You see that little droid there right in the background? It has the Force. And it did things, and then it broke down.
He was a hero.
Yeah.
Versus, other Disney, which is just releasing Mufasa, the live-action the live-action Lion King live-action prequel, because no one wanted that. And also Timon and Pumbaa in that. It's very Star Wars of them to like make Timon and Pumbaa be so pivotal in Mufasa's rise to fame, and then to also meet his kid. Like, that's Star Wars. They're just redoing it.
Disney.
Yeah, it really is. It's just, that's how you explain it. You're like Disney.